everyone, my name is Cherie and welcome back to another episode of this weird mukbang English learning show. So today I'm not eating anything special, I'm just doing a regular omelette because I forgot to defrost my chicken breast, and I'm having some kimchi here. I've been craving something sour and spicy. So it takes a lot of time to research true crime cases, which is why I thought I'm gonna do True Crime Anonymous every other week. I was thinking that in between, maybe we can talk about some of the really common mistakes that I see in my students. Today we are having an omelet, a cheesy spicy omelet. I put chili, a little bit of hot sauce I brought back from Mexico, and of course cheese, and then I have some kimchi over here. I love it, it's delicious. By the way, do you guys see? I have this little mermaid spoon, and I'm fully aware that I'm dressed like a 12-year-old, but I don't care. This clothing website that I love shopping on, they're having this entire collection called Y2K Revival, and guess when I was a teenager? Y2K. So I bought a bunch of clothes, and now I have so many clothes that's gonna allow me to dress like I time traveled. And today we're talking about one of the most common mistakes that Taiwanese students make. I hear this mistake at least 5 times a night. First, we're going to cover what the mistake is, how it is misused, and why people misuse it. Then we're going to talk about how it is actually supposed to be used. So far, it's not that important because you can look that up in a grammar book. But then after that, we're going to explain why it is used the way it is, using logic that everyone will be able to understand if we live in the same dimension. I personally believe that if you're trying to be fluent in a language and you're not trying to be Shakespeare, it's like 10% culture and history, 20% linguistics, and 70% logic.
Don't quote me on that, I just made up numbers like now.
But you can understand the usage of all of these words by simply applying logic. Then finally, we are going to explain it using the help of some Mandarin. We're going to translate parts of it, which I don't think is the best way to learn a language, because I believe no matter how accurate translations are, things always get lost in translation. All right, so today, the most common grammatical mistake that I see in my students is misusing the word ever. So a lot of students would say things like, I have ever been to New York, which is wrong, by the way. And I ask my students this question a lot, like whenever they make a mistake. I ask them, like, what do you think it means? So that I know their thought process and I know where it went wrong. And every single student, without fail, every single student who makes this mistake tells me that ever means before. And I realize it is not their problem, because I found textbooks and I found teachers who are actively telling students that ever means 曾经, which is before in Chinese. That is absolutely not what ever means. Ever means at any point in time. So, in our universe, we understand time as a linear concept. That means we think of time as a line. And you can go forward. For you guys, that is forward. So you can only go forward and you can look backwards. But it's a line, right? A line, it's formed by many different points. Ever means at any point in time. So imagine this is a timeline. If you say ever, it means that this statement that you're making is true at this point. It is also true at this point. It's true at all of these points. This entire line, all of the points that it is made out of. It is true at all of these points. So, if you say I have ever done something, which is wrong, I have means that it's already done, right? So it's already done by now. And at any point on this red line in the past, this statement is true. But no, going to New York or doing something happens at one point in time. It is a dot. It's not so many dots that it forms an entire line that takes up the entire timeline before now. All right. So, why is it correct when I say, have you ever? Because it means, have you ever at any point in the past done this? So it doesn't have to be true at every point, right? Because it is at any point. So if at one point you did it, it was true at one of the points. So at any point, did you do it? Yes, at one point I did. I'm sorry, this is so good. Oh.
Hello? Can you try? I'm eating right now.
Every time. Where was I? Okay, I was saying, have you ever? And we can also use it in negation, because when I say I have never, never is basically the negation of ever, right? So when I say I have never or I haven't ever, it means you can take any point in the past and the answer would be no, I did not do that at that point. So, how do you say that you have done something? You simply remove ever, because I have already means that it was in the past. It's something that you have already done at this point in time. So you would simply say, I have been to New York, I have been to London. And that indicates that before now, at one point, you did it, not at any point. And then finally, we're going to try to look at this concept using Mandarin. Why am I using my left hand? Maybe I'm right-handed, but I think I'm a little bit ambidextrous because I can paint the nails on my right hand with my left hand, so I like to believe that I'm ambidextrous. Ambidextrous means that you're not right-handed or left-handed. You can use both hands to do sophisticated things. Usually it means you're smarter, but I don't think I'm smarter, but I just like to flaunt that I can do stuff with both hands. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can hear the thunder. Alright, so how do you say it in Chinese then? If it's not before, how do you translate at any point in time? I was thinking about this, and it is translated into 从来. It's the exact same concept. You would say 从来没有, but you would not say 从来有. It doesn't make sense. Just like it doesn't make sense in English. So that's actually the end of my explanation. It's a really short video. It's a very simple concept. I think once you look at the timeline and you look at all of the dots, let's look at some phrases where you would think, then how do I explain this phrase? For example, happily ever after. This is one that confuses a lot of students. Even though they know the phrase, after I explain it, they're like, okay, then what does it mean, happily ever after? Because ever means at any point in time. It doesn't have to be in the past or future. It can be in the past when you use past tense with it, when you use haven't, when you use never have I ever, have I. So the tense, ever itself, doesn't have a verb tense, right? It is decided by the rest of the sentence. So when I say happily ever after, after means after now. So it means at any point on this red line, after now, they're happy. So that means the prince and princess lives happily, always, forever, for the rest of the entire timeline. And that is the end of today's video, because it's simple as that. And from now on, because I know you also understand time the same way as I do, most of us here are probably not theoretical physicists that's going to talk about different ways to perceive time. Okay? So this is how the English language perceives time, because we're not all quantum physicists. Therefore, that's the logic of the English timeline. That's how you use ever. All right, I'm done eating, so I'll see you guys next week with another episode of True Crime Anonymous, and maybe I'll eat something crazy. Maybe I'll eat some cheat food because my birthday is coming up. So I'm turning 18. No, just kidding, 20.